Good evening, everyone. And before I start, I look around this room and I see so many friends, so many people I love and appreciate, and people who've been family for a long time. And before, I just want to say, Mayor Dad, I remember where we were 3 years ago. Much smaller room, fewer people, and now you've had 700 people. That is to your tireless efforts and to that of your board. And can I just say, last night was absolutely spectacular. Dr. Turok's speech was inspiring. Bonsoir à toutes et à tous, c'est un plaisir d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. Distinguished guests, honored colleagues and friends, our science and science policy family. I'd like to offer a warm welcome to the researchers and students here tonight. You are the scientists, engineers, astronauts, health experts, social scientists, and humanities researchers who work to build a better future for us all. Nos fonctionnaires qui travaillent sans relâche pour les Canadiennes et le Canada. Je suis très fière du travail que vous faites pour promouvoir les sciences, inspirer la prochaine génération de chercheurs et raconter vos exemples de réussite. Je vous remercie de votre importante contribution. Again, Mayor Dad, your board of directors, thank you for the opportunity to join this important event. It really is a great honor to be here, and I'm lucky. It's the third time I've had the pleasure, and I mean pleasure, of attending this conference. I want you to know I'm sincerely thankful for the invitation, and to all of you for your support you've shown me the last 2 years. We have much to cover over the next hour, and I look forward to your questions afterwards. But let me begin by addressing what might be on your minds. As funny as I get, folks. The call for more funding for science. This has been and will continue to be a priority for me. I understand the importance of investing in investigator-led research, along with the labs and tools that are necessary to do excellent research. That's why I commissioned an independent review of federal funding for fundamental science, and I'm going to come back to that review shortly. I'd like to share what's on my mind. It is a vision that sees Canadian science as re-energized, forward-looking, and bold global pursuit. We are at a unique moment in history where Canada is viewed, and I quote, as a beacon for science. I'm just back from the G7, and my colleagues are talking about Canada being a beacon for science. We should all be proud of the fact that we rely on the evidence produced by researchers to address some of the world's greatest challenges. Chers amis, je crois que nous avons une excellente occasion de réaliser une vision qui montre le Canada comme un champion de la science et des chercheurs à l'échelle internationale. To achieve this vision, my priorities can be summed up in 3 points: to strengthen science, to strengthen evidence-based decision-making, and to strengthen our culture of curiosity. So let me talk about my first point, to strengthen science. Right now, Canada is seen around the world as a progressive country, empowering its scientists to make breakthroughs that could change the way we understand ourselves and the world around us. This view stands in stark contrast to where science was a decade ago. The previous government was driven by ideology rather than evidence. Science was sidelined. Under the watch, funding for fundamental research was in decline. Limited investments in research were tied to commercial outcomes. Federal scientists were muzzled, and scientists protested the death of evidence on Parliament Hill. I was a member of the opposition at that time. I was disheartened by and I fought against the blatant disregard for science. And I see my dear colleague, Ted Hsu, here in the front, and I'd like to recognize Ted for being a tireless champion in Parliament for science. I remember getting discreet calls from scientists who felt they were no longer heard by their own government. I hope you feel that changed when Canadians elected our government. We promised a different approach, one that would rely on facts, science, and evidence-based decision-making. And we began delivering on that promise on our very first day when we reinstated the long-form census. Because we know that data matters. We muzzled our scientists. Nous avons donné suite au conseil des scientifiques. Nous avons interdit l'amiante pour protéger la santé et la sécurité des Canadiens. I brought back the university and college academic staff survey, UCAS, so that we could better understand the demographics of the faculty on university campuses. That was one of the first steps I took in a chain reaction designed to address the chronic lack of equity and diversity in the sciences. D'autres mesures prises incluent l'établissement de nouvelles exigences en matière d'équité pour les chaires d'excellence en recherche du Canada et le programme des chaires de recherche du Canada. I gave our universities a deadline of this December to submit an action plan to meet their equity targets, their diversity targets in the CRC program, or I would withhold funding. I'll have more to say on the issue of equity and diversity in a moment, but let me first speak to what I think is one of my greatest efforts to strengthen fundamental science. As mentioned earlier, I commissioned the Fundamental Science Review, the first of its kind in over 40 years. Je remercie les 9 membres du comité consultatif. Ils ont fait du beau travail, de très, très beau travail. This independent committee has given me a report of 200 pages and 35 recommendations. I don't know how many of them are in the room. I did see David Naylor. I assume Martha Crago is here. Dr. Art McDonald. Could we have those who served on the panel stand and be recognized? And before I go on, let me just also recognize Dr. McDonald, our newest Nobel Prize winner and a true champion of science in Canada and around the world. And Art, someone I'm very proud to call my friend. I agree with the majority of the Fundamental Science Review's recommendations and am taking action to implement many of them. Tonight gives me the opportunity to highlight some of the work we have been doing these past months in response to this important review. For example, I launched a Network Centers of Excellence competition this summer that puts a premium on multidisciplinary, multinational, and bold research initiatives. I've expressed my support for replacing the Science, Technology, and Innovation Council with a more public-facing advisory body. In the coming months, I will move forward with a new, more open and transparent Science and Innovation Council so that government can benefit from independent experts working in these fields. And just along with that, I will also let you know we will move forward with the Major Research Facilities Subcommittee. Je travaillais avec la ministre de la Santé pour modifier la loi sur les instituts de recherche en santé du Canada et séparer les fonctions du président et des présidents du conseil d'administration. Last week, I launched the Canada Research Coordinating Committee, known as the CRCC. The CRCC is expected to harmonize programs and policies among the granting councils and the Canada Foundation for Innovation to the benefit of the researchers they support. And I've asked the members of the committee, including our 3 granting council presidents, I think they should be recognized, and our president of CFI. I've asked that they submit a work plan in the next 2 months to map out how they will address such issues as Canada's capacity to support international, multidisciplinary, risky, and rapid response research, how we can collectively advance our efforts to support Canada's strengths in strategic research areas, what more can be done to increase equity and diversity and prove support for early career researchers. And I just want to highlight the wonderful work that was on display last night by 3 extraordinary young women, and as I came in, I got to see more of the poster sessions. I've asked the committee, I do expect results, des changements qui vont faciliter le travail des chercheurs canadiens. Earlier today, I capped the renewal of Tier 1 Canada Research Chairs. It's one of the most prestigious research programs in our country. And again, it is following on one of the recommendations on the review. Well, there will be rare special circumstances. This cap will ensure more mid-career researchers and early career researchers have the opportunity to hold one of these prestigious positions. The cap will also ensure greater diversity in chair positions. That means more women, Indigenous peoples, visible minorities, and those with disabilities in the sciences. And I mean all sciences, right across the disciplines, so that everyone will have a shot of holding one of these chairs. On that note, I'd like to spend a moment reflecting on the importance of encouraging greater representation in the sciences. I don't think I need to make the case to this group that when our research community includes people from diverse backgrounds with unique experiences, knowledge, and perspectives, we are all one step closer to the next breakthrough idea or discovery. Broad perspectives breed great science. This issue has deep personal significance to me, as someone who spent the bulk of her career as a woman in science. As a woman in science, I have been told the reason I was getting paid in the bottom 10th percentile was because I'm a woman. I was asked by a fellow faculty member during a staff meeting when I planned to get pregnant. I was asked to choose how I wanted to be treated, as a woman or as a scientist. My travels across Canada have made it very clear to me that addressing the inequities in the research community must remain a top priority for all of us. We must work together to right the gender, equity, and diversity scales in the sciences. And when we do, science will be that much stronger for it. In addition to the people powering science, our government has made good on its promise to invest in ways that strengthen our capacity for world-class research. The Canada First Research Excellence Fund, $900 million to Canadian researchers who are taking on grand initiatives such as quantum computing, stem cell research, brain science. This year's budget also invested $125 million to enhance Canada's international reputation for excellence in artificial intelligence. That could go very badly. I want to highlight the important lesson this investment offers. Canada's strength in artificial intelligence is a direct result of investments in investigator-led fundamental research made some 30 years ago. At that time, many thought machine learning was the stuff of science fiction. Blade Runner had just come out in theaters. You guys are a tough audience. But that skepticism did not deter scientists like Geoffrey Hinton from seeking funding to pursue his interests in artificial intelligence. It was the leaders at the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research, CFAR, that saw the potential of Hinton's early work. And just take a break here. If I could ask Allan Bernstein to stand, who's just been received the international prize, the Henry Friesen Award for health research. They brought him to Canada, Hinton, created a global research program under his leadership, and made sure that he had the funds to conduct his work in machine learning. That we are now realizing the returns on those early investments shows the wisdom of investing in discovery research across the board. The government is also providing $2 billion for new and renewed research and innovation infrastructure on university and college campuses across the country. But this group knows that buildings don't do research, people do. And that's why it's so important that we invest in our researchers, that we invest in investigator-led research. In the first budget, we made an increase to the 3 federal granting councils. It was a boost. It was a down payment. But I hope you noticed it was unfettered funding. There were no strings attached. It wasn't a social science, you could apply for social sciences, but it had to be tied to business. It was unfettered funding. And it was the highest amount of new annual funding for discovery research in more than a decade. On to the second point. Aren't you glad that's just point 1 done? About strengthening evidence-based decision-making. C'est l'une des valeurs fondamentales de notre gouvernement et celle que nous mettons en pratique lors que nous prenons toutes nos décisions. sur des enjeux comme l'Arctique, l'agriculture, les évaluations environnementales, la santé et la sécurité. La science et les éléments probants sont à la base de tout. As you know, I fulfilled my top mandate commitment by naming an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary scientist, an extraordinary Canadian as our new Chief Science Advisor. Dr. Niemer, would you rise to be recognized? And by the way, word on the street is you knocked it out of the park at noon. I don't have to tell this group. Dr. Niemer is a highly accomplished medical researcher, a former university executive, and an award-winning scholar who is recognized internationally for her contributions to academia. Her job is to provide our government with independent, nonpartisan, and the success of this position is that it remain independent. She will give us independent scientific advice, could range from Arctic to ocean science. Already this weekend, she was out doing a roundtable on ocean science. Our colleagues are seeing the value that you bring to government. Our Chief Science Advisor will gather the most cutting-edge science and present her advice to me, the Prime Minister, and Cabinet. It is then my job as Minister of Science to incorporate her findings at the Cabinet table so that we can make decisions that improve the lives of Canadians. Science, in other words, is part of the mix of economic, social, regional, health, gender, diversity advice put forward by the Cabinet. We are really fortunate, Dr. Niemer, that you've taken on this profoundly important position, and I want to express my heartfelt and sincere thanks for your doing that. I've asked Dr. Niemer to assess the merits of creating a network of departmental chief scientists who will provide independent advice. The work to build these bridges has already begun. I've brought the deputy ministers of the science-based departments together to discuss how we can break down the barriers and take a whole of government multidisciplinary approach on issues such as artificial intelligence, Arctic research, climate change. Why? Stronger evidence supports better decision-making. I've talked about how we're strengthening science. I've outlined the path forward to strengthen evidence-based decision-making. And I'd now like to reflect on my third goal, strengthening the culture of curiosity in Canada. I've had the enormous privilege of visiting labs from coast to coast to coast. And I think I know this world. I spent a long time in research, and yet I'm awed, humbled, and inspired every day by the research in this country. I will continue encouraging young people, young researchers, to be curious, to pursue their ambitions. That's why I launched a Choose Science campaign to help more young people, along with their parents, relatives, teachers, and mentors, see a future career for themselves in science, technology, engineering, math, the arts, and design, whatever they dream. I'm a strong supporter of programs and events such as Promo Science, Science Odyssey. And could I just ask all those who are involved in promoting science to stand, to be recognized? I hope that's all of you. I hope that's all of us. We thank you for your work. Most recently, we hosted our very first Prime Minister's Science Fair here in Ottawa. Why? Because we wanted young people to know that their scientific achievements are recognized and have a home on Parliament Hill. La curiosité qui les anime les mènera loin. J'ai donc beaucoup d'espoir pour notre pays et pour le monde entier. We must never doubt the talents of today's youth. I have always believed in the power of our youth. They ask questions we've never thought of before, and they're eager to answer those questions. I have to tell you, I always miss my students. I love being here. You energize us, you inspire us. And I think sometimes our job is simply to get out of the way and stand on the sidelines and cheer you on. I ask all of you to help me by encouraging the young people, and I know so many in this room do. Encourage the young people in your life to ask bold questions, challenge assumptions, and find a way around any obstacle that may lie in their path. Colleagues, we know that science touches all aspects of our lives, and that research will be the key to the future. That's why our government places such value on it, and on the policies that strengthen our research community and our culture of science. We know that when it comes to science in this country, a culture change will not happen overnight. But look how far we've come in 2 years. You can be confident that I will continue working hard to strengthen science, strengthen evidence-based decision-making, and strengthen our culture of curiosity in Canada. What I ask of you is this: tell the story of how science builds a better world. Show the people in your communities how science leads to new cancer treatments, therapies for dementia, new technologies that fit in the palm of your hand, and new horizons that have yet to be explored. If we work together, I am certain we will achieve our goals: a better society, a cleaner environment, a better quality of life for all, and a stronger middle class. So let's keep pulling in the same direction. Continuons d'en parler. Before I close, I want to say thank you to everyone in this room. Whether you're in research, whether you're in government, whether you're in policy making, whether you're starting your career and you have bold ideas, whether you promote science, and I see Dr. Kirion here, our chief scientist for Quebec. I look around a room and I feel so privileged to be able to serve you. It's a remarkable community that does extraordinary work. We're in this together, and we're much stronger when we are united in our effort to make a difference through science. Merci. Thank you.